everyone, my name is Miss Ashley from Febo Kids Art Academy, and for today's character camp, we are drawing the famous Sesame Street character, Elmo. So let's go ahead and get started. What we're going to do is we're going to be grabbing a scratch piece of paper. This is going to be for our practice draw. Now, I want you to use a pencil during this drawing, but I'm going to be using a Sharpie so you can see my lines. Now, Elmo has an oval shaped nose. So we need to start in the middle of our paper and work our way just a little bit up, and we're going to draw an oval for his nose. Elmo has two big round eyes, but these eyes are somewhat hidden by his nose. So you're going to start at the top of his nose, and you're going to draw a circle to the left side of his nose. So remember, we don't draw the rest of the circle because it is hidden by his nose. And we're going to do the same thing on the right side by starting on the top of his nose in the middle and draw that circle and then stop on the right side of his nose. Now he has two black pupils in his eyes, so we need to draw a smaller circle on the left eye and inside of the right eye as well. I'd make him about the size of maybe a dime or a nickel. Now we need to draw his head. We're going to start almost on the middle left of the eye, and we're going to draw a curved line going down. And we're going to do the same thing on the right side as well. So starting on the right side of that eye, we're going to draw a curved line going down and stopping. Try your best to make sure that it is lined up, because now we're going to draw a large U curve to connect those lines. So start on the left, we're going to draw the large U curve to the right side. Now Elmo has a really big smile. So what we need to do is we're going to draw a large curved line inside of his head. And we need to connect that with a large U. So again, I like to start on the left side and work my way to the right side. We need to draw his outstretched arms. So where the left side of his head is, we're going to just travel down just a little bit, and we're going to draw a slanted line going up and off the page. And we're actually going to do the same thing on the right side, draw that slanted line off the page. Now we also need to draw another slanted line, so make sure to go below that line. So make sure to leave yourself some space, because we're going to draw another slanted line going off the page. And again, same thing on the right side, leave yourself some space, and draw that slanted line off the page. Now for his body, starting at the bottom of that line we just created, I'm going to curve in and just a little bit curve out to the bottom of the page. Same thing again on the right side. Slightly curve in and curve out. And that is it for our practice draw for Elmo. If you do need to pause the video for any reason, you can go ahead and do so. I am going to be moving on to my final draw next. So let's put our scratch piece of paper aside, take out our final paper that we will be coloring on. I would like for you to still use that pencil. I'm going to be using a Sharpie so you can see my lines. We need to start with Elmo's nose, and we're going to be drawing that oval. And on top of that oval, we need to draw a circle to the left side. So go up and draw that circle that connects to the left side of his nose. And we're going to do the same thing on the right side by drawing that circle. Remember, part of his eyes are being blocked by his nose, so we don't need to finish off those circles. However, we do need to draw a smaller circle on the left and a small circle on the right. Now for his head, we're going to start almost in the middle of his left eye, and we're going to draw a curved line going down. And same thing on the right side, draw that curved line going down. We need to connect those lines together by drawing a large U curve. So I like to start on the left and work my way to the right. For Elmo's big smile, we're going to draw a curved line underneath the nose and draw a big U to connect those lines. For his outstretched arm, we need to start on the left side of his head, almost to the bottom, and draw that slanted line going off the page. And same thing on the right side, slanted line off the page. We need to draw another slanted line below for the bottom part of his arm. And same thing on the right side. For the rest of his body, we're going to start underneath the arms, and you're going to curve in and curve back out off the page. One more time on the right side, curve in and off the page. Now, if you wanted to, you could add some extra fur onto Elmo by drawing just some V lines around his head, maybe just a little bit of sideways V's on the arms, and maybe some more V-shaped lines around his body. This is an optional step. You don't have to do this. If you do, however, decide to do that, make sure you are erasing those lines we drew earlier. So the lines right here where his head is, you just make sure to erase those lines as well as in the arm. And again, don't forget to erase those lines because that is actually our final step for our final draw. So when you're done with your picture, it should look something like this. And this is mine in pencil. What you're going to do once you are done drawing your picture, you're going to take that black Sharpie and you're going to outline all of your pencil lines. You are also going to fill in those small circles inside Elmo's eyes. However, please do not fill in the mouth with the Sharpie. So let's go ahead and take that moment to outline those lines. Hello. Now I'll wait to fill in those eyes once I am done outlining my picture. If you need to pause the video for any reason, you can go ahead and do so. You can either use a black marker for this or you can just use your Sharpie. I'm going to stick with Sharpie though. And that is it for our final draw. So let's go ahead and move on to our final color. So now that we're ready to paint, I'm going to grab my bucket. And I'm first going to be starting with the background. Now again, you can choose any color you want for the background. I'm going to be doing light blue for mine. Now while I do like this light blue color that I have, I do want to make it just a little bit lighter by adding white to it. So I'm going to grab some blue and I'll add some white as well. Anytime you want to make a color lighter, a little bit more pastel colored, you can always add white to that color. So I'm just going to take my blue and white and mix it together. And when you're done mixing, or you don't have to mix, that's totally up to you, you're going to paint the background first. Now I'm using my big brush and I'm going to try my best to get as close to Elmo as I possibly can. For those really small areas, I will switch to a smaller brush, but for right now I'm just going to tackle those big areas with my big brush. And if you do go over the lines on Elmo just a little bit, that's okay because we're actually going to bring back those lines with our Sharpie when we are done painting. So as you can see, I went over his eye just a little bit. All right, so I've almost finished the top part of the sky. Again, you can use yellow for that background. You can use pink. That is up to you. I'm going to start on the bottom part of the picture. And again, I'm just getting as close as I can. I will switch to my small brush soon. All right, I have done everything that I can with my large brush. Before I switch to my small brush, I am going to clean my big brush as best as I can. Remember, water and acrylic paint don't mix very well. Water is just used for cleaning it. So you make sure that when you're done using that brush and cleaning it, you dry it off completely. Because if you have wet paint if you have wet paint on your wet brush, it may ruin your picture. Now I'm going to switch to my small brush to get those smaller areas. So I'm just going to get those small areas around Elmo's head. All right, I do need to get it on the left side as well. I even have a small area here, close to his shoulder. So I'm going to get as close as I can to his arm as I possibly can. While you're painting that background, make sure you've gotten every single white spot. All right, almost done with the rest of the background. All right, again, just get those small areas that was too hard for your big brush. All right, now that I'm done with my background, again, make sure to clean that brush super well. We're now going to be painting Elmo's body. It is the next largest area on our picture. As we're painting, we want to go from big areas to small areas. So Elmo is red, so I'm going to use this nice red paint that I have. I'm not going to be doing any mixing. And I'm just going to take my brush again, make sure that it's nice and dry. Take that red and paint over Elmo's body. And don't forget his head as well. Be careful though as you get close to his eye and nose, especially his eye. You can paint his eye white, but I'm actually going to leave it white from the paper. So please be cautious as you paint around his eye. And you may have to use a small brush to get as close as you can to that eye, which is okay. And be extra careful as you go close to his eyes and nose. So I'll leave this area alone for now and just paint the rest of his head and body. All right. And I'm leaving some of those areas on his head alone. I'll go back with a smaller brush. I am going to paint the rest of his body though. All right, and again, I'm just getting those small little bits of his fur. Again, just keep spreading that red around. Make sure it's nice and even and you don't have any gloops of paint. The thicker the paint is on the paper, the longer it will take to dry. And acrylic usually dries pretty quickly, but if you do have a lot of layers or your paint is thick on your paper, it is going to take a little bit longer. So I highly recommend taking that big brush and trying to spread that paint. I may need to get some more red paint onto my plate, so I'm just trying my best to use everything that I possibly have. All right, almost done with Elmo's body. Now, if you find that you're still painting that background, maybe you've just started painting Elmo, you can always pause the video, that is okay. Now, I did paint onto the background on accident, so I'm going to have to wait for that to dry and go back and paint that small area. This is why we need to be extra careful and take our time. I have painted everything I possibly can with my large brush. Take your time to paint those areas. I'm going to be washing my brush, making sure it's dry. And I'm switching to my small brush. So I'm going go around his eyes, get as close as I can. And do the same thing on the left side as well. All right, again, be extra cautious as you paint on Elmo's face around his nose and eye, or both eyes, I should say. Again, try your best to get all those white spots as well. Make sure your paint is nice and even. I'm using my smallest brush to get that fur. Same thing on the left side as well. Alright, I have gotten my Elmo all painted. I do want to make sure that everything's nice and even. I do have a few spots that I can go back over just to make sure it's a more vibrant red, which I think I will do with my medium brush. And I do have some extra paint, so I don't want to waste any paint. Now you don't have to paint your Elmo red. You can make him pink, you can make him blue. If you paint him blue, he may look more like Grover from Sesame Street, which is okay as well if Grover is your favorite instead of Elmo. And again, I'm just taking that time to get back to those areas that may not have as much paint as other areas. All right, again, take that time. All right, looks like my Elmo is completely painted over. Wash those brushes super well. We're going to be moving on to his nose next. Now his nose is orange, however, I find that this orange is just a little bit too bright. It looks more like construction cone orange. And Elmo has like a nice soft orange nose. So I'm actually going to be mixing just a little bit of white with my orange. Just a little bit though, you don't need a whole lot. I'll use my medium brush to mix. Now this is too light, so I'm going to get some more orange. Maybe just a little bit more orange. I'm going to be painting his nose. Looks like I still need a little bit more orange though. There we go, much better. And I'm using my medium brush for this. I recommend using that size. Don't use your big brush because while it is kind of a big area, it's a little bit easier to use your medium-sized brush. You're going to get as close as you can to that edge as possible. Now I'm finding it's a little bit hard to get those edges, so I will switch to my smaller brush. And while I was painting, I did notice there is an area on Elmo's face I need to touch up with some red. So I will do that after I'm done with his nose. All right, his nose is done. If you did paint over a little bit of that Sharpie line, that's okay. I need to touch up this area of Elmo's head. It was a little bit lighter than the rest of his body. I'm going to leave the eyes alone just because they're already white from the paper. You can paint them white if you want to, but I just recommend leaving it white from the paper. I am going to be using black for the mouth. Now, I need to tell you something about black. It is a very strong, powerful color that if it's not used correctly, it may mix with your other paint on your picture and it will be really hard to fix that mistake. So when you're painting his mouth, be extra careful to only stay in this area of his mouth. You don't want to go outside and accidentally mix with your red, because while you can wait for the black to dry and you can paint right over it, you may need to keep applying that paint and wait for it to dry and then paint over it again, wait for it to dry and paint over it again. So when you're painting that mouth, please be extra careful. I'm getting as close as I possibly can to that edge. Again, take your time. I went a little bit fast right there. All right, I just want to make it just a little bit more even on both sides. All right. Now you could be done with your picture if you wanted to, or you can wait for it to be completely dry and add some more details to the background. We do, however, need to bring back those Sharpie lines that we that we painted over. And I'm going to go back over here. As you can see right here, I did paint a little bit to my background, so I want to grab some blue paint and just paint right over that. Now you can do what you want to your background. I'm going to make mine a little bit more simple. I will be adding some grass after I make sure that there's blue on top of here. But you don't have to use paint for that background, actually. You can use oil pastels, you can use markers. However, I do recommend you wait until your background is completely dry. Now, Sesame Street is a kids show, so I do want to kind of portray that this picture is for kids. And in a lot of pictures, he's got a background where it looks like it's been doodled on with crayons. So I want to actually mimic that type of style in the background. So before I add those details to the background, I'm making sure my picture's dry. Luckily, my fingers are not sticking to the paper. And I'm just going to add some small details to that background just so it, again, looks more like a childlike picture. So for my cloud, I'm actually going to do them a little bit different than I usually do. I'm going to do some swirls. And I'll do some similar clouds on this side. And it's okay if part of your clouds are cut off. That is cropping. Now, since I want it to have that not quite completed look to it, more like a child did draw this picture, I'm going to take my white and I'm just going to go back and forth on my picture. Since I am done with painting, I am going to put my paints away. And again, I'm just using that white, pressing pretty hard to add some scribbles. And it's okay if you don't completely fill it in. I'm just going back and forth, almost in like close zigzags. You can even take that white just a little bit outside of the cloud if you want to. And I'm just going to go over it just to make sure it is a little bit more white. All right, I am done with my white. I'm going to take my green and I'm just going to add some grass. How I'm going to do that is I'm going to take my dark green and do some up and down lines. Just like I'm drawing a bunch of triangles. And then I'll take my lighter green and just kind of scribble scrabble inside. Again, you don't have to fill this in completely. These nice zigzag lines that are close together make it look like maybe Elmo colored it himself. And for the sun, I'm going to be using a darker yellow. I'll draw the sun. I'll have it peeking behind this cloud. Again, you can do what you want with your sun. I'm just going to have that sun drawn here and draw some sun rays. And then I'll take my lighter yellow and do those same zigzag coloring for my picture. Again, you don't have to do this type of background if you don't want to. It is completely up to you. I just chose this again so it looks like maybe Elmo colored that background instead of me. Now, when you are done, make sure your picture is completely dry before you do this final step because you're going to go back to your Sharpie and you're going to outline all of your Sharpie lines that we added previously. But I must tell you, please make sure to not have your arm on top of Elmo's mouth. It may be a little bit wet and you don't want to press your arm on it and then accidentally put your arm on top of Elmo's face. So when you are outlining his face and his eyes, be extra cautious around that mouth. And I am just taking my time bringing back those lines with my Sharpie. Same with his nose. So as you can see, my red was not quite dry, so I got a little bit of blue paint on my background. So I need to fix that up. So you can be extra careful as you go around those areas. finish the right side of Elmo. I'll do the left side as well, but again, I need to be extra careful as I am on the left side. I'm trying my best to avoid putting my arm on his mouth. I'm going to get his chin as well. You can take your time with this step. There is no rush whatsoever with Sharpie. If you need to pause the video because maybe you're still working on that background, you can go ahead and do so. All right, and I'm just finishing that area. Now I still have some fur lines in Elmo's body, so I'm just going to go over those just so it looks like he is furry. And you can even add more lines if you want to. I wouldn't add too many though. Sometimes, especially in this case, less is more. And that is it for our picture of Elmo. Thank you guys so much for joining me. I hope you had a lot of fun drawing Elmo from Sesame Street. And we will see you next time. Bye!